Tinubu at the 31st Nigerian Economic Summit in Abuja. Shettima warns against action that could derail the country's economic recovery. Welcome to Business Point, where we extract the Nigerian economy and the government policies. I am Kike Lomo Okere. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was represented by the Vice President Kashim Shettima, urged participants to protect strategic national investments such as Dangote Refinery, which he described as an institution, not an individual, addressing ongoing industrial disputes and labor tension. The Vice President appealed for dialogue and understanding, delivering President Tinubu's message at the summit themed Building a Prosperous and Inclusive Nigeria by 2030. Shettima says the administration board economic reform are yielding tangible results across key sectors. According to him, Nigerian GDP grew by 4.23% in September 2025, surpassing projection by global and local agencies, while non-oil revenue rose by 411% year-on-year. He also reveals that the nation's external reserve stood at $43 billion as of September 2025, with total revenue collection surging 19.9 trillion naira in 2023 to 27.8 trillion naira by August 2025. He added that Nigerian debt service to revenue ratio had dropped from 97% below 50%. While the country's sovereign rating had been upgraded to a stable outlook in the international agencies. A reflection of the renewed investors' confidence on job creation and productivity, Shettima highlighted government initiatives in agriculture, solid mineral and SMEs support, announcing a $200 billion intervention to fund and to help micro and small businesses overcome structural challenges. He also disclosed that the administration is investing heavily in infrastructure with over 440 roads projects covering 2,700 kilometers nationwide, and has launched the Renewed Hope Work-Based Development Program to empower communities across all 774 local government areas. The Vice President urged state governments to align with their policies with the Renewed Hope agenda, noting that diversification, innovation, and inclusivity remains key to Nigerian long-term growth. Let's take a listen to Vice President Kashim Shettima.
I want to dwell on something that is very dear, a topical issue that is very dear to the heart of every Nigerian. Aliko Dangote is not an individual, he's an institution. And he's a leading light in Nigeria's economic firmament. And how we treat this gentleman will determine how outsiders will judge us. If he had invested $10 billion in Microsoft, in Amazon, in Google, probably he might be worth $70 to $80 billion by now. But he opted to invest in his country, and we owe it to future generations to jealously protect, promote, preserve, and project the interests of this great Nigeria. I wish to call for caution, retrospection, and a deeper sense of patriotism from both the labor and the organized private sector in defining and improving the relationship between labor and industry in the interest of maintaining our steadily improving economic fortunes. It's not about holding the whole nation to ransom because of a minor labor dispute. Nigeria is greater than Pengassan. Nigeria is greater than each and every one of us here. This growth has not yet fully translated into enough jobs for our people, but we are closing that gap. We are giving priority to agriculture and solid minerals, two sectors with great potential to create jobs and strengthen our economy. To move faster, we have entered into partnerships with other countries to bring in modern farming equipment, train our farmers, and expand extension services across the nation. Agriculture is the bedrock of our economy. And for us to have enhanced agricultural output, we have to embrace technology. Improved seed is absolutely essential. Fertilization is a sine qua non. Extension services is an ingredient for successful agricultural intervention, and most importantly, better agricultural practices. And we are poised to see that the whole mantra is on increase in yield as lightly enunciated by the Vice Chairman of the NESG. And we cannot have improved yields without embracing technology, modernity, fertilization, and of course, technology. Not complex technologies where a family of 3 or 4 can farm 2,000, 5,000 hectares, but intermediate technology that also employ labor and drive productivity. And our reforms are deliberately cross-cultural because we understand that diversification is the only pathway to sustainable growth. The contribution of the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development to the Federation account has improved remarkably with the sector, generating 12.58 billion in 2024 through mineral title applications and related fees. This is a sign of the sector's awakening and the result of deliberate reforms aimed at unlocking its full potential. As a people-oriented government, our priority remains restoring hope to the unemployed, the poor, the excluded, and the vulnerable. We have created pathways for young Nigerians to access grants and loans and equity investments of up to $100,000 to scale their enterprises, innovate, and build sustainable livelihoods. We established a 200 billion naira intervention fund to support micro, small, and medium enterprises and manufacturers, helping them overcome structural challenges and enhance competitiveness. Our expansion of digital microloan access has improved financial inclusion, empowering small businesses and stimulating community-level productivity. These efforts underline our commitment to an economy that works for all Nigerians. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen,
that was Vice President Kashim Shettima giving us more insight into the present administration economic reform. All right, moving on, the Central Bank of Nigeria has announced that any agent found engaging in non-permissible activities under its newly revised agent banking guidelines will face a minimum penalty of 5 million naira for the offense and 100,000 naira for each day default continues, in addition to forfeiting any profit made from such activities. According to the revised guidelines, operating without a valid super agent license attract a fine of not less than 10 million naira and 200,000 naira for each day the default persists. The Central Bank of Nigeria further stated that failure to obtain its approval or no objection as stipulated in the guidelines attract a fine of 2 million naira for the financial institution and for each director or senior management staff responsible for the infraction. Similarly, a failure to maintain proper accounting records attracts a fine of not less than 5 million naira for financial institution, while any officer who willfully caused the default will pay a minimum of 2 million naira. Non-permissible activities under the guidelines include super agents undertaking agent banking activities, agents offering banking service such as customers accounts opening, loan underwriting, investment, or forex service delegating permissible agent activities to another entity or individuals using non-human or automated machine as agents. Any other activities deemed not permissible by CBN, the Apex Bank also ruled that individuals or entity with non-performing loans within 12 months preceding their appointment or renewal as agent bankers are unfit for such role. Others disqualified include persons declared bankrupt, companies under insolvency, and individuals whose bank verification number are watch listed. The CBN explained that the review of the agent banking guidelines became necessary due to rapid expansion and increasing sophistication of the sector driven by technological advancement. It says the new guideline consolidates all existing policies in a single document to comprehensively address emerging issues within the agent banking ecosystem. The federal government has vowed to recover all public funds still lying outside the Treasury Single Account (TSA) and the Central Bank of Nigeria as part of efforts to sanitize public finance and boost transparency. Speaking during Ghana on fiscal policy at the 31st Nigerian Economic Summit in Abuja, Wale Edu, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, reveals that despite long-standing activities, substantial government funds remain outside the TSA and not domiciled at the CBN. According to Edu, plugging fiscal leakages and improving public financial management are at the heart of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's reform agenda, which is being implemented in 3 phases: stabilization, recovery, and growth. As part of this effort, Edu disclosed that the federal government implemented a central billing system from October 1, enabling real-time reconciliation of payments, which he described as game changer for revenue collection. This lack of access, he explains, severely constrained planning and monitoring and is a major barrier to credible public finance reform. However, he added that technology is now enabling a rapid turnaround. He says the Tinubu's administration economic reform agenda has focused on correcting long-standing distortion, particularly the unification of exchange rates and the removal of petrol subsidy, which Edu described as market correction, necessary for restoring macroeconomic stability. He acknowledged that inflation remains high at around 20% and noted that further fiscal and monetary tightening will be needed to bring it under control. He emphasized that the social cost of reform, especially on the poor, is being addressed through direct cash transfer and social investment programs. Edu also touched on expenditure reform, noting that government is prioritizing capital projects and cutting down on waste. He reveals that discussions with National Assembly are ongoing to ensure a timely return to the January-December budget cycle, a key step to restoring budget discipline. Edu therefore called for collaboration between the public and the private sector, stressing that sustainable growth and poverty reduction can only be achieved through a combination of innovation, investment, and targeted social support. All right, let's take a quick short break now. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Stay with us. Are you sure you will not underrun? Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Business Point, where we extract the Nigerian economy and the government policies. The importation of premium motor spirits, popularly known as petroleum, into Nigeria has dropped to an 8-year low in September. A new report has stated that the sharp decline happened as government reform and expanding local refining capacity continue to redefine Nigeria's downstream oil market. A report by the Agos disclosed that Nigeria received 116 barrels per day, equivalent to 18.44 million liters of petrol shipped by sea last month, down from 154,000 barrels per day, which is 24.49 million liters in August, the lowest on Kepler record that began in 2017. The decline persists even as operations at the country's 650,000 barrel per day Dangote refinery were slowed by ongoing maintenance and a recent industry action by Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria. These developments came despite the Dangote refinery carrying out maintenance on its gasoline-producing residual fluid catalyst cracking unit, experiencing brief union-related disruption and receiving limited crude oil supplies during the period. The report added that net gasoline imports slumped to a low of 38,000 barrels per day in September after cargoes were notably loaded from Dangote from New York Harbor. Total gasoline loading from Nigeria were there for second highest on the record at 77,000 barrels per day. It also reports that the Dangote RFCC was taken offline on September 2, according to market participants, and was due to return full online in early October. Towards the end of September, a dispute between the refinery and oil workers union Pengassin led to a 2-day strike that disrupted natural gas and crude oil supply. This was resolved at the start of October. Agos tracking shows that 375,000 barrels per day of crude arrived in September, down from 440,000 barrels per day in August, but no local gasoline supply shortages were reported in September. And gasoline asking price at the Dangote refinery were broadly steady at 820 naira per liter. The report added that the naira-dominated domestic gasoline sales were further bolstered by the resumption of Naira for Crude program, under which Dangote pays local currency for domestic crude grades sourced from state-owned NNPC and sells gasoline and diesel to the local market in Naira. Data from the Global Energy Intelligence from Kepler shows that the Nigeria's petroleum imports dropped by more than 40% to 162,000 barrels per day between January and September 2025, down from last year's level when the country is ranked as the 5th largest petrol importer. Nigeria now occupies the 8th position globally. All right, before we call it a wrap, let's take a quick look at the stock market. Investors in the Nigerian Exchange Limited extended their winning streak on Monday to bullish trading, lifted the market's capitalization by 786 billion naira to close at 91.9 trillion naira. The positive momentum came despite a slight decline in trading volume and turnover, driven largely by price appreciation in heavyweight stocks such as Seplat Energy and Axe Mansard Insurance PLC. At the close of trading, all share index rose by 1,238.71 points, that is 0.86%, to settle at 144,822.75 points, marking a 1-week gain of 1.89%, a 4-week rise of 4.2%, and a year-to-date increase of 40.71%. Data from the NGX shows that investors traded a total of 519.9 million shares valued at 14.53 billion naira across 35,467 deals. This represented a 5% decline in volume, a 26% drop in turnover, but a 31% improvement in the number of deals compared with the previous trading session. In total, 128 equities participated in trading, ending with 47 gainers and 24 losers. Seplat Energy PLC led the gainers chart with 10% increase to close at 5,917.20 naira per share. It was followed by Axe Mansard Insurance PLC, which also gained 10% to finish at 15.84 naira per share, among others. On the losers chart, International Energy Insurance PLC led with decline of 8.42% to close at 2.72 naira per share. Nicole PLC followed with a lose of 8.31% to finish at 3.20 naira per share, while Thomas Watts Nigerian PLC shared 7.72% to close at 2.99 naira per share. Beja Paint PLC dropped to 6.8% to 37.00 naira per share, among others. Sectoral performance was largely positive as the oil and gas index gained 3.35%, the insurance index rose to 3.13%, the premium index advanced 2.06%, the pension index appreciated by 1.23%, and banking index closed at 0.64% higher. Market analysts attributed the sustained rally to a strong investor sentiment in fundamental sound stocks and renewed interest in oil and insurance equities, which continue to benefit from favorable sector dynamics. All right, this is where we draw the curtain on Business Point today. Join me again tomorrow on Global Television, channel 360.